Okay. So good morning once again, everyone. Welcome to Unbreakable Mains Challenge. Now we are on the 14th date and also the second last day of geography. So today, as all of you know, we'll be dealing with the water management and also Indian physiography. Now let me tell you, water management is the most significant topic in related to geography, okay? If you compare the last 10 years, more than 10 questions have been asked from the same. And it's very easy to predict the questions which are asked from the same. So what are the topics? You must learn about the interlinking of rivers. You must learn about the urban floods. You must learn about water scarcity. You must learn about groundwater usage. For all these topics, you must and try to make a one-page note because these are very probable topics and UPSC have repeated it twice and more than twice in the last 10 years. So as you can see here, these are the 5 questions for the day. The first one dealing with the interlinking of rivers, followed by the decline in groundwater, followed by urban floods, followed by 2 questions related to Indian physiography, which one relates to the Deccan Traps, and the second one deals with the Himalayan regions. Now let me tell you a very basic thing regarding water management. Now, for almost all the topics, we have discussed what to provide for the conclusions, right? Almost for all the topics we have discussed about the same. Now, what do we provide in case of conclusion for the water management? What can we provide? For those who are online there, you can mention about the same. What can we provide as a conclusion? Just give me a second. Yeah, so you can mention in the comment section, what can we provide as a conclusion for water management? What do you think? Okay, so basically you can mention about Jal Shakti Abhiyan. You can mention about the different government of India goals, such as SDG Goal 6, which is clean water and sanitation. You can mention about different government schemes, such as what I said about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. You can mention about Amrit scheme in case of urban floods. You can mention about Atal Bhujal Yojana. So all these schemes you can mention. Also try to go for best examples or best global studies. Now, what are the best global studies out there in case of all these things? You can mention about Israel's water management, because all of you know Israel is in a water arid region, but then exports most of its agriculture products because of its water management. You can mention about Kenya's sand deserts. They have constructed small wells in these sand deserts. You can mention about China's sponge cities in case of urban floods are asked. Sponge cities. You can mention about Berlin's. Now Berlin, the city Berlin, which is in Germany, has an urban tax. Okay, has a urban penalty, I would say, for those houses which have not established water harvesting system in their homes. Okay, so we can mention about Berlin's tax and penalties. You can also mention Tamil Nadu. Okay, Tamil Nadu has also made water harvesting system mandatory for all the urban households. So you can mention Tamil Nadu as well. Even Chennai, in the city of Chennai, they have made urban water harvesting system mandatory. So try to mention all these things. In case of SDG, you can mention clean water and sanitation as well, which is SDG Goal 6. Now, what about the introduction? You need to quote sufficient facts, okay? In case of floods, you can quote about the different floods that have happened in the recent times, such as the Chennai floods of 2015, Kerala floods of 2018, then the Delhi, Mumbai floods, which happens every year. You can mention about the Uttarakhand floods of 2015, the Mysore floods of 2018. So try to mention all these things. And also in case of groundwater as well, try to have a proper data regarding the same. Okay, so UNESCO have mentioned that India is the world's largest extractor of groundwater. More than 86% of the groundwater, in India, almost 18% of the districts are very water stressed. So try to mention all these facts in case of introductions as well. Okay, so don't just provide a general introduction and conclusion as we always say. Now going towards the first question. What does the question say? The interlinking of rivers can provide viable solutions to the multi-dimensional problems related to droughts, floods, and interrupted navigation. Critically examine. Now, since the word critically examine is here, you need to mention the challenges regarding the same as well. So the challenges of about what? You need to mention about the challenges of interlinking of rivers. Now, I have always said this time, right? If the question asks in a particular chronological order, okay? If a question asks regarding a particular chronological order, you must answer in that model only. So let's say your first body part would be what? You need to mention how interlinking of rivers helps solve the issue of drought. You can mention 2 points on how it helps to avoid the droughts, on how it helps to avoid the floods. And then you need to provide at least 2 to 3 points relating to how it helps to avoid interrupted navigation. Okay, so don't just provide random points as such. Try to provide the points in these subheadings. Okay, first mention how it helps to avoid droughts, then floods, then uninterrupted navigation, and then go for the challenges in case of interlinking of rivers. Now, how do you provide the challenges? Challenges can also be mentioned in terms of pestle approach, right? So you can mention the social approach first. Social issues such as what would be the social issues of interlinking of rivers? It can be the displacement of tribal people. Displacement of tribal people can be there. Loss of life of tribal people can be there. Now go for the economic issues. What would be the economic issues? Economic issues can be the huge cost involved in interlinking of rivers, such as we have the Polavaram project, right? Polavaram project involves a lot of cost. You can mention about the lack of monetary compensation provided to all these tribal people or even the rural people as such. In case of political issues, what can you provide? Political issues, you can provide the conflict between states. Interstate issues will be there, such as now we have in the Mahadevi River between Karnataka and Maharashtra. Between Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, we have related to the Polavaram project. Also go for international disputes. Maybe India and Bangladesh may have dispute if India try to link the Teesta River with any other river. Now go for the environmental issues. Environmental issues can be deforestation, obstructing the natural flow. Then go for technological issues. So try to provide the answer in case of pestle approach, okay? So what does the question basically tell you? Let me go to the introduction. I have already mentioned what to write in the body part. So the interlinking of rivers can provide a viable solution to the multi-dimensional interrelated problems of droughts, floods, and interrupted navigation. So since the question talks about these three areas, you need to mention the same. Okay, so what can you mention? Recently there was a flood. Recently there was a drought. Okay, so try to mention a contemporary example regarding the same, and then as a transition, provide interlinking of rivers can be a viable solution to this. Okay, so mention about a recent flood, or mention about the recent droughts in India, or let's say mention about 60% of India's rainfall is received in just 4 months, and at such time there are floods in many areas, and after which there are many droughts in various other areas. To overcome this, interlinking of rivers have been touted as a viable solution. So you must provide a transition into the interlinking of rivers. Okay, also mention droughts and floods in the introduction as well. Then go for the first body part, which is how interlinking of rivers helps to avoid droughts, then floods, then interrupted navigation, then provide the challenges regarding the same. Then also in case of conclusion, what can you provide? You can provide the example of Amarkal. Okay, Amarkal. In case of Amarkal, there is sufficient availability of water to everyone. That is one of the principles of Amarkal. You can mention about the Jal Shakti Abhiyan, which is every household has access to water. This is also a government of India scheme. Water for everyone. You can mention water for everyone. Also, you can mention National Water Mission. Now, the goal of National Water Mission is to provide water to everyone. You can mention National Water Mission. And also, you can also go for a very conservation approach, okay? You can say that interlinking of rivers is a double-edged sword, and therefore, environmental factors, environmental impact assessment should be undertaken before proceeding with such a project. Okay, you can either go for the conservation angle or you can go for the achieving the targets, all these examples. Okay, now with relate to the second question, the ideal solution to the depleting groundwater resources in India is water harvesting system. How can it be made effective in urban areas? So the question basically says there is depleting water resources in India and water harvesting system is an ideal solution to the same. Then also the question also provides that how can it be made effective in urban areas? So it's a 10-mark question. We can easily identify the two body parts here. So what are the two body parts? You can see the first one is how groundwater resource, how water harvesting system is an ideal solution to the depleting groundwater resources. So how water harvesting system is a solution to the depleting groundwater resources is the first body part. Then secondly, how can we make water harvesting systems effective in urban areas is the second body part. Now, in case of introduction, what do you need to provide here? As I always say, in case when UPSC says something, here UPSC is saying that the ideal solution to depleting groundwater resources. So UPSC is mentioning that there is a depletion of groundwater resources. So what should we provide? We need to provide a data regarding the same, saying there is a depletion of groundwater resources. Okay, so you can mention according to UNESCO report, India is the largest extractor of groundwater. India is the largest extractor of groundwater. Or you can say according to NITI Aayog Water Composite Index, Water Composite Management Index, more than 18% of India's districts are water stressed, under critically water stressed. So you can mention all these factors, or you can mention that the water levels are going down in states such as Punjab and Haryana. There's a significant depletion in groundwater. So try to mention all these points, then go for a transition. And what should be the transition? After you set a fact, water harvesting solution has been touted as a solution to this or something like that you need to provide. Now after that, mention how water harvesting system can help in reducing the groundwater depletion. You can mention all these points, okay? Stormwater drainage, percolation, then in the ancient systems such as Tankas in Tamil Nadu, Kuts in Rajasthan. Try to mention all these points. Try to mention at least 5 points regarding the same, because even in this question, there are two body parts which needs to be given equal weightage. So 5 points for the first body part and also 5 points for the second body part as well. Now, how can it be made effective in urban areas? You can mention about the penalties. You can mention about the incentives. You can mention about institutional measures such as making it mandatory for urban households or even societies such as Chennai have made. You can mention about the incentives which government of India should provide through policies such as Jal Shakti Abhiyan or Amrit or even any other different schemes. So try to mention all these factors. You can mention institutional factors. You can mention laws. You can mention about incentives, punishment, taxes such as the Berlin have given. Now go for the conclusion. You can mention about global case studies, okay? You can mention about sponge city concept in China, permeable roads, green infrastructure and all these factors. And so also what I said earlier, you can also mention about the Berlin tax or even what Chennai did. Chennai has made it mandatory, right? So it can be made for almost all the cities in India, it can be made mandatory for constructing water harvesting management systems. So that was for the second question. Now what about the third? In what ways can the floods be converted into sustainable source of irrigation and inland water navigation in India. Now, since it's a 15 mark, so this is not a 15 marker, this is a 10 mark question, okay? It's not a 15 marker, it's a 10 marker question. Do make the note of it. So what does the question say? In what ways can the floods in India can be converted into sustainable source of irrigation? So you can identify two body parts here, right? So the first one would be how it can be turned into sustainable source of irrigation would be the first body part. And the second body part would be how it can be converted into all-weather inland navigation. Inland navigation. So the two body parts are, first one, how it can be converted into a sustainable source of irrigation. Second one, all-weather inland navigation. So these are the two body parts. And also, in case of introduction, what can you provide? You can just provide what we discussed earlier. Now, you can provide that India receives almost 60 to 70% of these rainfalls in these 4 months. If we conserve these rains, we can provide a solution for the sustainable source of irrigation and also inland all-weather navigation system. So try to provide something like that, okay? Or else you can mention about certain floods which have happened in India and say that this needs to be converted into sustainable source of irrigation or something like that. Or it's better to provide the source of monsoon, okay? India receive rainfall from July to October, around 70% of its rainfall. Then go for sustainable source of irrigation and inland navigation system. And for the first one, what about the sustainable source of irrigation? You can mention about the construction of barrages, such as we have the Hurricane barrage. You can mention about, to avoid floods, we can mention about canals which can be converted for irrigation. We can mention about constructing new dams which can store water during the monsoon and which helps to avoid flood and also can provide for a source of irrigation. So try to provide all these points. You can mention about the barrages, stormwater drainages. You can mention about different canals. You can mention about the different dams. You can also mention about interlinking of rivers also. Okay, the rivers can be interlinked so that floods doesn't happen and water can be diverted into all different things. Now you provide the same points for these body part also. Okay, if you have an interlinking of rivers, you can directly go from Chennai to Krishna to Godavari through that. If we construct canals, if we provide canals, it also provide an interlinking all-weather inland navigation. So more or less the points are the same, but then by the way you write, it's very different. Now what about the conclusion? Try to mention on the similar points, okay? SDG goal of clean water and sanitation, or since the question actually asked about irrigation, you can write about more drop per crop, more drop per crop. Now this is a Government of India goal, more drop per crop. Also, you can mention Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. You can mention about National River Linking Network or the National River Linking Program should be fast tracked to avoid the floods and provide for source of irrigation and also inland navigation. Or else you can mention about Mission Kakatiya of the Telangana government, wherein the Telangana government has constructed huge kilometers of canals to avoid floods and also provide for irrigation and also for inland navigation. So Mission Kakatiya by Telangana government is actually a beautiful example for the same. Okay, you can mention about Mission Kakatiya. The name derives from the Kakatiya dynasty. Kakatiya. Kakatiya. So try to provide some interesting examples, okay? Now regarding the fourth question, it's a more of very easy question. Discuss the natural resources of potential of the Deccan Trap. Here also it's a 10 marker question. Now here you can see the directive as discussed. Now what different body part can you introduce here? Try to think of it. Let me tell you also one thing. After getting the question, you don't write it as such. You don't start from the beginning, okay? At least 30 to 40 seconds, you try to brainstorm on what you need to write. Okay, these are the body parts. These are the introductions. These are the conclusions that I can provide. These are the different weightage. In case of this, I should provide 7 points related to the natural resources and 3 points I can mention about the challenges related to extraction of these natural resources, right? So try to identify the body parts try to identify the weightage given to each of the body parts, try to identify the introduction, conclusion, and also the body part in these 30 to 40 seconds. Then you start writing the answer. So since the word is discuss here, if it was elaborate, illustrate or something, we don't need to provide the second body part here. But then since the term is discuss, we need to provide the challenges related to the extraction of this natural resource potential. Now, what are the natural resource potential? You can mention about the minerals. You can also mention about the black soil, fertile soil. You can mention about the forest. Deciduous and right deciduous forest are there. You can mention about the rivers here, Godavari, Krishna, all these rivers. So try to mention about the resource, minerals, black soil, forest, rivers, all these potential you try to mention. And in case of minerals, you mention the different kind of minerals which is there. You mention the different types of agriculture which is undertaken under the black soil, such as cotton. You mention about the different types of forest, and also you mention the rivers, dams, everything you can mention, even solar energy, everything you can mention here. And also in case of discuss, you can mention about challenges in extraction, such as ecologically sensitive zones, a lot of tribal people are there, then all these mentions you can provide. And should you provide a graph or something here? What do you think? You can also provide a map regarding the same, right? So you can mention the Deccan Trap here. You can mention black soil. You can mention the rivers such as Godavari, Krishna. You can mention about the minerals such as Chikmagaluru. You can mention about Bellary. You can mention about Kolar, KGF gold mines. All these factors you can mention here. Okay. Now, final question. Differentiate the causes of landslides of the Himalayan region and also Western Ghats. Now, always when a question comes regarding the cause of landslides or differentiate, you tend to have you tend to provide it in a table format, right? Now, but in this question, should you provide it in a table format? Because let's say in case of Himalayas, the main cause of landslides are glacial lake outburst, and also the tectonic plates. But in case of Western Ghats, it's due to the significant monsoon that we receive during this time. Also, it's due to deforestation, because after the forests are gone, the soil gets loosened and then the landslides occur. So, there are different reasons for the landslides. Okay, the reasons are very different. So therefore, even if you don't provide a table format here, it's very fine. Okay, it's not mandatory to introduce a table here. You can just provide. So here we have two body parts, right? The cause of landslides in case of Himalayas. So the causes of landslides in case of Himalayas, see the first body part here, and the second body part you can mention about the Western Ghats. Now, hence we have causes of landslides here. It's a challenge, right? So therefore it needs a solution. Now, what can be the way forward here? Always if you write a challenge, always if you write about an issue, you need to provide the solution to it. Now, as we discussed yesterday question, we discussed that infrastructure activities such as the Chardham road project, such as the border roads urbanization road projects, always lead to landslides, right? Because of the urban infrastructure. Now, what can you provide? You can mention environmental impact assessment should be there. There should not be any development activities in the ecological fragile regions or even the eco-sensitive zones. There should be sustainable development. So try to mention the solutions as well. Okay, since we're talking about a cause or a challenge, we need to provide the way forward as well. And also, in case of these conclusions, the best model of conclusion would be mentioning any committee reports, okay, regarding the conservation. So in case of Western Ghats, you can provide the Kasturi Rangan committee report, and also the Madhav Gadkil committee report. And also in case of Himalayas, we have I don't remember the exact name, you can Google it. I guess from Mishra committee report is there. Also, you can mention the Hindu-Kush alliance, Hindu-Kush alliance between India, China, Pakistan, Nepal, and all these countries, which provides for the conservation of Himalayas. Conservation of Himalayas. I guess the Mishra committee report, I'm not sure, you need to Google it. Okay, and also in case of introductions, what can you provide? Differentiate the causes of landslides. Try to provide the contemporary examples. So you can mention about the recent landslides which took place in the Himalayas and the Western Ghats. Try to provide the contemporary examples regarding the same. You can say that recently there was a landslide in Uttarakhand which have killed this many people. Recently there was a landslide in Kerala, Churalmala, which claimed over 70 to 80 lives in 2023. So try to mention all these examples, okay, in the introduction, and then go for the first body part, which is the cause of landslides in Himalayas and also the cause of landslides in Western Ghats. Then go for the solutions, and in case of conclusion, try to provide the Madhav Gadkil or any other different committee reports, or directly go for the conservation regarding the same. Okay. What happened? Okay. Now, dealing with the answer key, you can pause the video, or even you can close the video, or even you can mute me. So I'm going to be explaining about what to write or showing the answer key regarding the same. So the first question regarding the interlinking of rivers, you can mention about any recent interlinkings is also a good. But then since the question basically asks about droughts, floods, and the navigation, you don't just mention recently Prime Minister has inaugurated the Polavaram project. Recently, the first phase of Kenbedka project has been inaugurated. No, that's not a good introduction for this course, because you have to mention about the problems related to droughts, floods, and interrupted navigation. Okay, so therefore don't go for any contemporary example. In case of floods and droughts, maybe you can provide an example, but then don't go for the Ken-Bedwa interlinking of rivers or something like that, because you need to mention first about the droughts and all these other issues which is happening in the country. Then you can provide interlinking of rivers can be a solution for this. Okay, this is not a good introduction, because you can see what the topper have written here, right? Ken-Bedwa river interlinking project is the first operational river linking project in India. It is proposed as a large-scale infrastructure project that aims to connect India's major rivers through a network of canals, resources, and dams. Now, does this introduction have any relation to the question here? No, it doesn't have any relation, right? Because we need to mention about the droughts, floods, and interrupted navigation. Providing a very general introduction doesn't do this. So this is not a good introduction, but in case of the body part, he or she have written well. So you can see here, interlinking solution to the problems. You can here she have mentioned about the drought relief. Now try to mention about all these examples, okay, because you need to mention it. What can you mention? In case of drought relief, you can mention that the Polavaram project transfers surplus water from Godavari to Krishna. Right, or you should mention transfer surplus water from Ken to Bedwa. So this example should be provided, or transfer excess water from Mahadev to the other different river. So try to mention in this manner. You need to provide the examples regarding the same. Control floods. In rainy season, rivers such as Kosi in Bihar mostly flood the region. For that, we can interlink Kosi and any other different river. So you have mentioned about drought. Then you have mentioned about flood. Then you go for connected waterways. But then you need to provide at least 2 points in all these points, okay? Don't just provide a single point, but then try to provide multiple points, because this is the most significant body part. Hydrogen generation, irrigation benefits are not required. Then go for the challenges. Now challenges should be written in case of pastoral approach. Go for political reasons, economic reasons, social reasons, which I have already mentioned. So here water availability is something. He or she have written the environment example first, then gradient issue, then huge fiscal deficit, which is an economic issue. Federal tensions can be written as a political issue. Environmental drainage can be written as an environment issue. Displacement of people can be written as a social issue. So always try to generate points in case of the pestle approach. Okay, so so what can you provide? Level 2 introduction would be India's seasonal landscape is marked by seasonal floods in the east and recurring droughts in the west and south. In this context, interlinking of rivers is often projected as a long-term hydrological solution. So try to mention in this manner. Don't just provide a very general introduction, or you can provide the idea of river linking has emerged amid frequent floods in Assam and Bihar and water crisis in Tamil Nadu and Bundelkhand. Or something you can mention like this as well. If you want to provide a contemporary example regarding the same, you can mention in this manner. Or you can mention the floods in Brahmaputra, droughts in Marathwada, and declining inland navigation route highlights the multidimensional nature of India's water crisis. River interlinking is often proposed as a solution to this. Okay. Now, in case of conclusion, what can you provide? You can mention about different goals of the government as India advances to the goals of Jal Shakti Abhiyan and Har Ghar Bijli, Har Ghar Jal Mission. Every household has access to water. River linking must be pursued with ecological safeguards and local conservation practices. You can provide to contribute meaningfully to the National Water Mission goal of more drop per crop, sustainable water use. Interlinking should focus on basic specific. Also, you can mention the SDG goal as well. Given India's commitment to SDG goal 6, clean water and sanitation, and SDG goal 13, climate action, go for the conservation approach. River interlinking must be environmentally conscious, socially inclusive, and integrated with climate. Or you can mention about what I said earlier, river interlinking is a double-edged sword which needs to be pursued with the ecological perspectives, environmental impact aspect of all in mind. Because we have earlier finished about the challenges, right? You have mentioned about the challenges in the earlier body part. Now you have to mention about those challenges in the conclusion as well. Okay, so that's why we go for more of a conservation approach here. Always in the conclusion, you must mention ecological safeguards, okay? Because we have mentioned about the challenges earlier. Now, second one, the ideal solution to depleting groundwater resources in India is a water harvesting system. How can it be made effective in urban areas? So two body parts. First one, depleting groundwater resources, how water harvesting system can solve this. Second one, how can it be made effective in urban areas? So you have to mention a fact regarding the same about the depleting groundwater resources. Here the top I have written, India is the world's largest groundwater extractor. Groundwater accounts for 63% of all irrigation water and over 80% of rural and urban domestic needs. Now here also, what is the issue in this introduction? He or she have just mentioned about India's groundwater extraction. But then, is there a transition here to the water harvesting systems? Can you see a transition here? No, there is no transition here. Here he have just mentioned about the water harvesting system. So this is not the way to introduce, but then we should provide a water harvesting system as a transition. Reasons for groundwater is not required. Then directly he or she have went to water harvesting system, which should not be done. Introduction, there should be a transition regarding the same. So tackle the water scarcity issue by providing buffer and water harvesting systems. Enhances seepage into the groundwater, thus recharge of aquifers, johuts, ponds, urban, this one. Prevents the surface water runoff. Sourcing the stored water and water use in industries. Bottom-up approach. Now what are the effective ways of water management, water harvesting in urban areas? Roof water, rainwater harvesting. Chennai's have made it mandatory. You can mention about the Chennai initiative. Small structures such as recharge pits, recharge trenches, dug wells, recharge shaft, percolation tanks, reclamation of urban wetlands, urban lakes, which has been a part of Mission Kakatiya. Also, you can mention about the Pani Foundation as well here. But then mostly the Pani Foundation focus on the rural areas. Okay, fine. Smart cities project you can mention. Traditional methods such as tanka, scouts, all ahers, can all these mention. Awareness program can also be mentioned. The government should increase the awareness program regarding the groundwater depletion and should persuade the citizens to construct water management harvesting systems. You can mention about, now you don't need to provide the government initiatives as a different body part here. Rather, you should mention it along with the points. Okay, Jal Shakti Abhiyan, Atal Bhujal Yojana, Jal Jeevan Mission. Okay, so what can you provide? In the introduction, India with around 18% of the population has only 4% of the freshwater resources, which is facing a silent groundwater crisis. In this scenario, water harvesting has emerges as some solution. Now, conclusion, you can mention about as India moves towards Vision 2047 of Atmanirbhar of Amarkal, groundwater should be used along with National Water Mission. Water harvesting should be, you can mention about the Sustainable Goal 6, clean water and sanitation, or you can mention about to realize the goal of Jal Shakti Abhiyan and Amrit 2.0, rain harvesting must become a core component of city planning. Also, try to note all this. You can mention about the different global practices. Okay, so you can mention about the Israel's rooftop rain harvesting system, which is mandatory for almost all the houses. You can mention about Australia's managed aquifer recharge. You can mention about China's Pond Cities initiative, Kenya's sand dams in sand deserts, Brazil's cistern programs, and Germany's rain tax and urban recharge initiative in the city of Berlin. So in case of Berlin, almost all the houses have to construct this rainwater harvesting system, or else they'll be fined with a rain tax. Clear, everyone? So you, in the conclusion, go for global best practices as well. I'll share this document, okay? You don't need to note it down now. Now, third one, in what ways have the floods can be converted into sustained resource of irrigation would be the first body part. Second body part would be the all-weather inland navigation. So here, you can mention India faces the problems of efficient water management, water surplus during the time of July to October, and water crisis or even the droughts in after the monsoons. So how can floods be converted into a source of irrigation? Constructing of inundation canals. You can construct inundation canals. You can construct diversion of water through small irrigation schemes. Small irrigation. You can mention the barrages and dams such as the Faraka barrage. You can mention the interlinking of rivers. You can mention about the inter-basin transfer of water such as Mission Kakatiya or even the Polavaram project, which transfers water from Godavari to Krishna. Rainwater harvesting can be provided. Now, what about then all-weather inland navigation? River linking projects can be provided. Canals can be built. Then interlinking of rivers can be constructed. So interlinking of rivers, canals and dams can be provided here. Now here the top I have mentioned about the Colorado River Canal, okay. So basically the Colorado River Canal has served both as an irrigation project and also a navigation facility. Maybe you can provide it as a global best example as well as for the same. Now introduction. The top I have written a pretty good introduction. You can go with that, or if you have to provide any other, you can mention that more than over 50 million hectares are affected by floods and 60% of the agriculture are rain dependent. India faces a dual crisis of both floods and even droughts. Now you go for the first body part. The top I have written the same. The top I have written it beautifully. You don't need to go anything beyond. But then in case of floodwater for all land irrigation, you can mention about the development of navigation channels via rivers, Ganga, Bhagirathi, Hooghly, construction of barrages and locks. You can mention about multi-purpose flood moderation navigation projects such as Polavaram and all the other. You can also mention about interlinking waterways through the construction of interlinking river project and also the construction of canals. Well, best example will be the Kerala interlink rivers, okay. We have all these National Waterway 3 in Kerala. Now conclusions, you can mention about SDG Goal 6, clean water and sanitation. Also you can mention about SDG Goal 9, infrastructure and innovation. Also you can go for the conservation approach here. You can mention about Amarkal by 2047. It's almost the same, okay. PM Krishi Sinchai Yojana for irrigation, Jal Shakti Abhiyan. So almost for all the water questions, we always go for the same. National Water Mission, Amarkal, Jal Shakti Abhiyan, all these factors only, okay. So you won't try to make a framework for all this. When the water questions come, I will provide for these conclusions. When there's a question related to yesterday we discussed about tourism mountains, right? I'll go for a responsible tourism project, or even STG goal something, let's say 13, life on land, life on STG goal 14, life on land. So try to provide, in case of this question come, always go for this conclusion. Try to provide a framework in your mind, okay? Or else I'll also provide a note. Since we'll finish GS paper tomorrow, GS1 tomorrow, I'll provide a note regarding all the topics and all the conclusions and the introductions which you can provide in terms of level 1 and level 2. Now, going with the next question, discuss the natural resource potential of the Deccan Trap. So firstly, you can mention what Deccan Trap is. Deccan Trap is a large, in the west, central India, consists of numerous layers of solidified flood basalt. You need, try to draw this one, okay? Try to draw a map regarding the Deccan Trap. So first one, what are the natural resource potential? First one, you can go for the soil, black soil. You can mention the minerals such as bauxite, manganese, all this one. You can mention about, okay, so the topo has not addressed the other body part since the question came as discussed, but then you try to provide the other body part, okay? Now what can you provide? You can mention about the Deccan Trap. Try to draw a small figure regarding the same. Firstly, go for the mineral resources, manganese, bauxite, iron ore, copper, zinc, dolomite. Now black soil for agriculture. You can mention about cotton, soybean, pulses and millets. You can mention about the water resources, Godavari, Krishna, Tapi, and all these hydropower projects, basalt layers, all these factors. Now go for the forest as well. You can mention about the dry and deciduous and thorn forest, Tadoba, Satpura, ecotourism potential. You can also go for the geotourism and geological heritage as well. The Lonar Crater Lake and all these beautiful Gandikota. Sorry, Gandikota is in Eastern Ghats. You can mention all these factors, okay? All these tourism points as well. Now challenges can be, we are going for the 70-30 or the 80-20 approach here. So you just need to provide 2 to 3 points regarding the same and no need to elaborate regarding the same. You can mention about agriculture productivity is limited, groundwater recharge is uneven, mining and industrialization have led to land degradation, climate change have increased the stress on already dried regions. Try to mention all these issues when we are going for the extraction of all these rivers, all these resources. Now conclusion can be go for the conservation element. The Deccan Trap region, if sustainably managed, can serve as a model of balanced development, ensuring mineral extraction, food security, water conservation, aligning with SDG goal 15. Sorry, 15 is 14, SDG goal 14. STG goal 2, responsible. STG goal 12 is very good, okay? In terms of when a question comes regarding rivers, in case of any resources question come, you can mention for STG goal 12. Let it be minerals, let it be oceans, let it be Deccan Trap, let it be Himalayas. Always go for STG goal 12, which talks about responsible consumption and production. Okay. Also, in case when a resources question comes, you can always go for the $5 trillion economy, okay? Which strategic policy support the Deccan Trap can contribute meaningfully to the India's $5 trillion economy. In case of location of industries, in case of mineral questions, in case of resources questions, you can write the economic point of view, okay? It's not that in case of GS1, you cannot quote GS3 model of conclusion. No, in case of these topics, obviously, in case of society questions, we cannot go for the $5 trillion economy, right? But then in case of resources questions come, you can go for economic point of view as well. Okay. Now for the final question, question 5, differentiate the causes of landslides of Himalayan region and Western Ghats. Firstly, go for the contemporary example. So what can, here the topper has mentioned what a landslide is. That's why I haven't showed you here. Now, the causes of landslides in Himalayan region, tectonically active area, young fold mountains, natural events such as glacial outburst, precipitation, human activities such as shifting cultivation, construction of roads in ecological sensitive areas such as Chardham, Uttarakhand, border roads organization, dam construction in case of you have the all these dams, right? Chenab, you have all these dams, right? You have the dam. You have Bakra Nagal, you have all these different dams in Jhelum, Chenab, okay, Bias. Now, what are the, so that's a different thing. Now go for the landslides in Western Ghats. And even if you want to draw a map, don't draw it on the middle, okay? Because the map is not very significant here. So after the introduction, you can just draw an India map on the right hand side and you can mention about the landslides. And in the last landslides, what can you mention? You can mention about the Kerala landslides 2021, or you can mention, or else not need to draw all this, okay? Because landslides often happen and the dates are not important, okay? You can just mention about the Western Ghats and also the Himalayas. So what are the reasons for heavy precipitation in Western Ghats? Ecologically fragile regions, mining, deforestation, then tourism hotspots such as Munnar in Kerala, Idukki, Ooty, Kodaikanal you can mention, and go for the conservation such as here the top I have written Gadkil report and Kasturi Rangan report in case of Western Ghats, and in case of Himalayas, okay fine. Okay, it's a Mishra report only, okay. The top I have written the same, he or she have written about the Mishra report in case of the Himalayas as well. So definitely go for the conservation angle because of a question regarding the landslides. So any doubts, anyone, regarding today's topic? Does anyone have any doubts? I guess it was a very extended session today. We have taken 45 minutes. So any doubts, anyone? Kirtiga, Chaitra, Arun, do you have any doubts? Okay, so thank you, Chaitra. Thank you for joining. Kirtiga, STG goals, okay. Okay, then we'll wind up the session, okay? So thank you once again for joining, everyone. So tomorrow we'll be dealing with the last portion of geography, which is the climate change. And also let me tell you, it's better to take a break on Saturday, okay? So we won't be having a session on Saturday. And starting from Monday, we'll start with GS2. Because let's take a break on Saturday. We don't need to start Polity on Saturday, right? Since we're talking about starting about the new GS2, let's start it fresh on Monday. And also, I'll try to share a document which I said earlier regarding art and culture, how to introduce, how to conclude. I'll provide my own answer writing framework for all of you guys. Okay, so in case you like this session, do share it to your friends, aspirants. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. So I'll see you guys on tomorrow, exactly 11 a.m. dealing with the climate change. So yeah, that's all everyone. Thank you.